And
Welcome back,
we are back.
everybody. Welcome back.
First
Welcome back.
official month in the books. We're in May.
Wow.
First show of
Look
May.
at us, huh?
Look
at us go. Keep the
baseball
wagon
season
rolling.
flies. Really does.
Yeah, it really does. I can't believe it's already May. Dude, I can't believe I'm graduating. I'm going to be a collegiate graduate in about 5 days. That's just insane.
That's crazy.
Nate Bope, Taven McCauley. Taven, you can find him at McCauley Media. You can find me anywhere at Tailgate Nate. We'll tell you that at the end of the show as well. Taven, how are you, sir? We know I got a lot going on in my life from what I just said.
Yeah, I'm doing good. You know, it'd be nice if the rain could stay away. You know, a lot of high school baseball rainouts.
Yeah,
but we're getting some games in. Been busy with that. And been busy with Cavs playoffs. You know, first round was good, and yesterday we'll decline. You know, Pacers gonna be tough, but would have been nice
confident.
In game one. Yep.
Hopefully, the injury news surrounding Evan Mobley and DeAndre Hunter is not too serious. And we're just going to bounce from sport to sport. So in cleaning things out and in graduating, I found this. It's like Uno Elite NFL. I have no clue if it's like regular Uno. I haven't even opened the box yet. So that's the first thing we're going to do on the show today because it comes with some foil cards, which I assume are collectible. So if I open something rare on camera, we're going to capture it. Nice little instruction card. But let's see what these babies are about. They got the nice black background. And boom. I guess they just got a bunch of NFL players on it. Like there's Trayvon Diggs.
Oh, that's Diggs. I thought that was Raiders. I'm like, who was 7 on the Raiders?
There's Evan McPherson, dog. Jalen Hurts, dog. You can't see it from the glare. Thanks. There we go. The legend, Joel Bitonio. Good stuff. Yeah, it's just like got a bunch of NFL players on the cards. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is what's in here. So let's open it before we talk baseball. I know this is the riveting content that you people all watch for. But I figured, if I'm opening something special, then we're going to have to. So, okay. This is also 2024, so you could see people on teams that they're no longer a part of. First up, of course. Of course, it's Amari Cooper in the Browns. Okay, so there you go. There's one. Next up, what have we got? Oh, DJ Moore. That's not bad. I'll take a DJ Moore. Next up, AJ Dillon. Somehow he's here. And Chris Lindstrom. I do got to say that's a pretty subpar pull from me. That's not a great pull from me. So, wow, that's really unfortunate. What a pack. Anyway, that's not what you find people are here for. You find people are here for the wide and wonderful world of Cleveland Guardians baseball. Taven, we're actually going to talk a whole lot of guard ball today because there are some youngsters, some prospects, for lack of better terms, that are really, really proving themselves up in Cleveland. Yeah. But before we get there, we need to start with the thing that we usually start with. Let's go through, after I throw this away, the results from your affiliates over this past week. If you're new to the show, we start from the bottom up and we climb the result table that way. And Taven, we're starting at the bottom with Single A Lynchburg. It was actually the best series out of any affiliate this week. We have to, before we dive into everything, I pull up stats. There we go. They took 4 of 6 from the likes of Charleston, which was a really, really big series for them. We had said last week that this is the big series for them to sort of build some momentum in a series they should be able to win, which they did. Taking 4 of 6 is never that bad. First 2 games of the series they did win, 6-5 and 7-4. You move on to the next 2 games on Thursday, Friday. They won 8-2 and got a shutout victory of 6-0. And then ended up getting postponed due to rain on Saturday. So they come into the doubleheader Sunday. Unfortunately, lose both of those, but the series was already in hand. Lynchburg makes up some grounds on the standings. And before we get Taven McCauley's thoughts, we got to talk about your home run hitters. Didn't do it last week because it was over the course of the past 2 weeks. But over the course of this week, Jeffrey Mercedes led the Hillcats, who became home run machines this week. He had 2 home runs. Welvin Francisca had a homer. Garrett Howe had a homer. Luis Morejo had a homer, as well as Jose Perella Otherwise, Taven, this was all around a pretty good series from Lynchburg, a series that we knew they had to win. They took care of business. We'll dive into more stats and things here after we get your initial thoughts.
Yeah, I think Lynchburg, they put up a really good series and, a tight Carolina league. Every one of those teams are in the race, so, you gotta play great. And I think pitching was, a big factor for them in this series. I think Jervis Alfaro, he pitched an absolute beauty, 5 innings pitched, didn't give up a single run. So just guys like that, I think, obviously Tommy Hawk, he stepped up in a big, big way.
We'll talk about him later.
Yeah, just everybody, kind of stepped up for Lynchburg, and it was just a good series for them all around.
As far as Lake County, it was an up and down series for them against the Lansing. I believe I'm going to get their nickname wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But they did play Lansing. And for Lake County, again, it was just an up and down series for them. If my schedule would load. Again, sometimes you're prepared, but the technology just isn't going to comply with you. They are the Lansing Lugnuts. There we go. I knew I was going to get it wrong. Hey, won the first game 13-5. Really, really dominant performance from the Captains. Then they did lose game 2, 5-2. And that's pretty much how the series went. It was back and forth. They lost Thursday, ended up winning Friday and Saturday, and lost on Sunday. Offense pretty hard to come by in this series, Taven. All in all, besides that 13-5 win, it was a really, really low-scoring series. No team gave up more than 5 runs besides that first game of the series where Lake County demolished the Lugnuts 13-5. One player I do want to highlight already out of the gate, as we had talked about, it had been a little bit of a struggle for Matt Wilkinson. He was flawless. So was Dylan DeLucia through 2 starts. Lake County pitching really stepped up this week.
Yeah, like you said, I think the pitching was really the biggest part for this team this week, and it really came through. You had Matt Wilkinson, absolute, he's back to what he's doing best. Dylan DeLucia was on absolute fire this week. And, just going in, you have to at least split series when you're in 4th place and you're only 2 games back. That means that you're in a very tight division, and Lake County knows that. They went in, obviously you want to take 4 or more in these 6-game sets, but, a split's not the worst thing in the world, but, you have to at least just get there, so.
And I didn't say any home run hitters because there were none. No one hit a home run for Lake County this past series. Let's go to the Akron Rubber Ducks, and they are not having the same dominance against Altoona that they did last year. Lost game 1, 10-2, won game 2, 6-0, and then the rest of the series played out like this: won 4-2 on Thursday, lost 6-2 on Friday, won 5-3 on Saturday, and lost 2-3 on Sunday. So back and forth series for Akron there, not having the same dominance they used to against the Altoona Curve, who are a pretty similar caliber team from what they were last season. However, we do have some home run hitters to tell you about for Akron. 2 blast out of the ballpark for Travis Bazana, and then 1 for Khalil Watson. But again, Taven, you see now the thing starting to plague Akron that happened last year, and especially now with CJ Kafis moving on to play in Columbus. They are lacking some of that additional pop needed in that lineup. CJ Kafis has been able to provide it. He was their best bat. And you see the trouble that plagued Akron last year starting to resurface, and that's there are times where the bats just can't hit the ball.
Yeah, I think that's what played the biggest part in this series. And I think now the question for Akron is, can you do it without your biggest bat in the lineup? And that was CJ Kafis. So I think that, it's definitely doable. You still have guys like Travis Bazana, Diane Frias. You have a ton of bats that are able to do it. And then the pitching staff, they're really starting to wake up too. Tommy Mays, Aaron Davenport, they pitch absolute beauties. Davenport's back to his old efficient self. And they played a very good Altoona team. Like you kind of said, this isn't the Altoona team last year that was at the bottom of the division. They're a really good team this year. Only 3 games back. So you go in, you split, you're still 17-10. Same with Erie, and you're tied for the top spot in the division. So I think you played a really good, a solid series against a solid Altoona team, and I think you're right where you need to be.
We will move on to the Columbus Clippers, who just had a whirlwind of a time for a bunch of different reasons. They did only play 5 games. We'll tell you why here in just a little bit because we don't want to spoil my storyline for the week. But they only took 1 of 5 from the St. Louis Saints, and Columbus is really starting to struggle, especially with getting runners home and just being able to close out games. They did win 5-2 on Thursday, but lost every other game in the series. Nothing really super explosive offensively for the Clippers on really any side, with the exception of the Wednesday game where they did lose 7-8. That was kind of the one close game that they honestly probably should have won there as well. Home run hitters for the Clippers, Brennan, Kefis, and Rodriguez all had homers. We'll talk about the CJ Kefis one in a minute. But for the Columbus Clippers, again, man, this is a team that's really, really starting to struggle.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that play into that. Last season, when you were looking at this Columbus team, you saw a lot of depth. I think all that depth is kind of gone just due to injuries and guys going up to Cleveland. Angel Martinez was the guy down there last year. He's now up at the big league club. And same goes for a lot of those guys. And I think that's what, kind of what you're seeing out of Columbus now is those guys that you lost not being there. You should have DeLauder and Valera, guys like that. They're not really there anymore. So it's just going to be, can the younger guys and your Petey Halpins and your Yordis Valdez's step up from last year, or the guys who were with Akron last year, can they step up and really make that difference? And I think that's, especially on the batting side, that's the biggest thing with Columbus I've seen this year.
We will dive more into these series in just a little bit, but Taven, right now it is time for our storylines of the week, and I'm going to go first because I am sticking with Columbus. If you want to throw up the graphic that I had you prepare earlier, this is just absolute epitome of what Columbus has been dealing with here once Taven gets the graphic up. Wrong
graphic. There we go.
No. So again, with you this year, you've brought 9 inches of rain, which is about 50% of the total precipitation for all of 2025 in Columbus, Ohio. They've had 5 doubleheaders scheduled, and only 10 out of their 12 scheduled games played, all against the St. Paul Saints. And jokingly, the Clippers have put down there, don't come back. I don't believe they have to play St. Paul in Columbus again. I think if they play St. Paul again, it's going to be on the road. But Taven, my takeaway is rain, go away. That's my storyline. Look at that, man. That's just insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. You don't really see, especially against the same team, you don't see that many rainouts, like I said, especially against the same team, which is kind of crazy.
And we were talking that Columbus was going to have to play a 7-game series instead of the usual 6-game week series coming into it because they had missed a game with St. Paul. And it was just like, okay, today's the doubleheader. Well, we were just joking. Now today's the doubleheader. Okay, we were just joking again. Today's the doubleheader. And eventually, once the Saturday rain came, they were like, we give up. We're just done.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So hopefully St. Paul never comes back to Columbus because they always bring rain, and they've now, I think they're leading the season series against Columbus, which we don't like either. So St. Paul, just don't ever come back.
Yeah, for sure.
Your storyline, Taven McCauley.
Yeah, my storyline's going to be my guy. It's tough not to talk about him when you get the chance. Aaron Davenport. He's the guy that I've raved about constantly last year, and he's back at it again. 6 scoreless innings, 5 strikeouts, and only gives up 1 hit. And of course, like I said, 6 innings pitched. Absolute dominant performance. It's what we know he could do. He did it last year. He's doing it this year, finally coming around. And, start the season, he wasn't really his self we saw last year. The first game of the season,
Agreed.
2 2/3 innings pitched, 3 runs. So not the greatest outing there. Then the second outing, strikes back, dominant fashion. 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 hit. Pretty much what he just did his past outing. Absolute dominant performance there. Then 4 runs, 2 runs in both 5 and 4 innings pitched. And then he finally settles back in. So I think this is, where Davenport kind of breaks through. And, he just really starts going. He's one of the most dominant pitchers that this minor league, not just our minor league system, but every level of the minor leagues has. I talked about it last year. I think he should have got, easily Eastern League Pitcher of the Year. Just stats, dude's amazing. I could go on and on, but yeah, that's my storyline. It's going to be Aaron Davenport.
Now is the time in the show where we go through and we hand out awards if there are any to give. And we do have a player to talk about, Taven. It is Jogly Garcia at the single A level from your Lynchburg Hellcats. He has been named with 2 awards. He is Carolina League Player of the Month and Carolina League Pitcher of the Month. So winning both awards there, quite the deal there from Jogly Garcia. Here's his stat line over, honestly, just the course of the entire season, which has been the month of month of April. My apologies. He has a 2.75 ERA and sports a 1-1 record. He's made 6 appearances and has started in 4 games. In 19 2/3 innings of work, has given up only 12 hits, allowed 10 runs. Only 6 of those have been earned. Has allowed no homers, has hit no batters, and his walk-to-strikeout ratio is amazing. 39 strikeouts and 14 walks. I'll check where his strikeouts rank among minor league pitchers and especially Carolina League pitchers here in a moment, but he only allows opponents to hit 1.69 on the season. Did struggle a little bit this past series against Carolina, had a 7.94 ERA, and in fact gave up 5 of those 6 earned runs just in this past series. But before this week, and even if you include this week and you expand it out, he's been one of the best pitchers in the Carolina League, and I think is absolutely deserving of the award that he just got.
Yeah, 1,000%. Very, very dominant young arm. Yeah, for sure. And you like to see that. You loved seeing that out of, a Lynchburg squad, and a guy like that has a ton of room to develop. Hopefully we hear a lot more. You can keep this going all season because Lynchburg, they need a guy as that ace. And I think that's what he can be. Just great start to the season. And hopefully he can just continue that.
Yeah, and by the way, those 39 strikeouts does lead the Carolina League in terms of pitchers. The next closest guy is actually 8 behind Jogly Garcia and John Hollabetz out of Carolina, who, as we know, has been tearing it up in the Carolina League. Carolina's doing really well. And then you also have Brett Sears, also tied with John Hollabetz with 31. The only difference being Brett Sears has 18 2/3 inning of work, 1 less than Jogly Garcia. Of course, it's impossible to get 8 strikeouts in 1 inning. John Hollabetz has pitched almost 5 innings more than Jogly Garcia, 4 1/3 to be exact. So if Garcia can keep that strikeout rate up, and in terms of opponent batting average among qualified pitchers, Jogly Garcia is that. Okay, I guess he's not qualified in terms of inning numbers to be able to do that, but he would be second on that list. He's just shy of the inning requirement of 20.
Yeah, real impressive stuff.
He's been really, really good in a ton of different ways. And yeah, the Jogly Garcia, congratulations, Carolina League Player and Pitcher of the Month. Hey, we're going to stick with Lynchburg and talking about their series. Taven, they were the most successful affiliate over the weekend. And let's sort of break down a little bit more of what they do. The bats are starting to come around for this team. Again, this is not a team that had a lot of home run power in the early going. Well, now there are guys that are starting to hit it all over the yard. And while no one hit over 333 for this team over this past series, it was a little bit of everybody. Jeffrey Mercedes had 5 hits. Francisca had 4. Howe had 3. Morejo had 4. Perella had 5. Ryan Cesarini had 5. Tommy Hawk had 4. Christopher Espinola had 3. And even Bennett Thompson continued to hit pretty well with 3 there as well. And in a series, Taven, that just didn't have a whole ton of offense, like they didn't break the scoreboard or anything like that. It was still a team that found ways to score and found ways to move guys and get on base, in which one guy in specific we'll talk about a little bit later. Yeah. Pitching wise too, we've already talked about Jogly Garcia, and he honestly was probably not even close to the best pitcher for Lynchburg over this past series. I mean, Melquise Hernandez had 5 1/3 scoreless. Rafe Schlesinger had 5 innings of 1-run baseball. Jervis Alfaro had 5 innings of allowing absolutely nothing. You had Sean Hepner go 0 for 2 appearances. Sean Matson 0 for 2 appearances. Donovan Zach 0 for 2 appearances. Xavier Martinez 0 for 2 appearances. Logan McGuire for 2 appearances, and I can keep going if you really need me to. Taven, it was a pitching staff that was excellent for Lynchburg this past series against, oh my goodness, who did they just play? Regardless, pitching staff, excellent. Just all around, even though they did lose 2 games, excellent series from the Lynchburg Hellcats.
For sure. I think this is the biggest, kind of, you look at this and it was just a team effort. Everybody stepped up, and I think that started with the pitching staff. Like you said, I mean, from the bullpen to the starters to the bullpen, everybody was on fire, and I think it was led by Alfaro, especially on Thursday. He pitched an absolute
he was
absolute
awesome.
Beauty and an 8-2 win for Lynchburg. And I think personally they played better than a 4-2 series win. Like if you kind of look at the stats of the box score, it looks like they came away with the series 5-1.
Some of those double-header box scores are very interesting to look at. I was looking at that. I do want to look at those again, actually, now that you said something.
Yeah, a lot went into it, but again, everybody stepped up. Cesarini, he had a big series. Bennett Thompson, he keeps killing the ball. Our guy Tommy Hawk, he absolute machine. You're right. We'll talk about him in a little bit because his numbers are absolutely insane. They keep going up. But yeah, I think this is all around just a great team win for Lynchburg, and it's been exciting to watch them, and they're finally starting to get stuff to really click and start rolling here.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned the name of Tommy Hawk. Before we get to him, because he's been insane this year, let's go through the box scores of that doubleheader. They did equal the amount of hits, and it was Charleston. They equaled the amount of hits against Charleston in Game 1 of that doubleheader, and then in Game 2, I don't know why it just went away from me. In Game 2, again, so Game 1 of the doubleheader was a 3-1 loss. Game 2 of the doubleheader, and again, it's where things really started to get away from the likes of Jogly Garcia. Again, Lynchburg was still getting on base, but the 5-run fourth for Charleston really put that one home there. So again, overall, you probably could argue again. They could have at least won the first game of the doubleheader, but again, to your point, I think they played really, really well in only a 4-2 series win. They were able to make up some ground, and now they do sit second place right behind Carolina, who has been the best team in the Carolina League so far. All right, you mentioned the name of Tommy Hawk. Guess how many bases he stole this week? This is not for you. Guess to the fans out there. Yep. Anyone watching, guess how many bases he stole. If you remember our conversation about Tommy Hawk earlier, drum roll.
Crazy.
8 and 4 in one game. 4 in a game. What game was that again? You sent me that, I think. I think I saved it. I might have saved it in our chat.
You did.
I don't think I did. Oh, that's unfortunate. All right, we're gonna go look at Tommy Hawk.
Might have,
but
yeah.
Regardless, 8 stolen bases in one series. 8.
It's unheard of. It really is just unheard of. I mean, do you want me to throw up the graphic now?
Wait 1 minute. The 4 stolen bases came in the game on May 1st. So the first day of May. He went and stole 4 bases.
Unreal.
We do unfortunately have to say that Tommy Hawk has been caught stealing this year for the first time. I know it's so sad, but he was caught stealing on May 2nd. And I mean, overall, you get caught stealing. Yeah, okay, it's your first one of the year. That's a bummer for a guy who's been a monster on the base paths. He still stole 2 bases that game. Yeah. So I mean, still not bad at all. The percentage is still going to look really, really good. Now would be an appropriate time, Taven, to throw up that graphic. Go for it. So
video game stats right here. Just look at stolen bases. Unbelievable.
So, Taven, when you talk about Tommy Hawk, obviously it's not a guy that has home run power. It's not a guy that's going to drive in a whole ton of runs. It is a guy that is going to get on base, though. You see there the 280 average. That does not tell the entire story, however. when you talk about Tommy Hawk, because Tommy Hawk is a guy that is also going to draw a fair amount of walks. He's drawn 20 walks this year. Taven is on base percentage is 433, and those 32 steals, by the way, lead all of the minor leagues, and it is not even close. Besides one player, that is Asbel Gonzalez. Asbel Gonzalez also plays in the Carolina League. In the single A division. He is also a prospect of a division rival in the Kansas City Royals. He's the number 23 ranked prospect in the organization for Kansas City, and he has 31 stolen bases. But as we established last week, Taven, he has 7 caught stealings. No one is doing it at the level with the efficiency that Tommy Hawk is doing it right now.
It's just absolutely insane. I mean, what? Most guys don't finish the year with 32 stolen bases in the minor leagues. This dude did it in a month. I mean, how? No words. I mean, you just look at that. You just look at it. You think it's Photoshop. And right, he's doing it efficiently too. It's not like he's getting thrown out. He's only thrown out once this year, and he's getting 4. He's getting multiple stolen bases during each game. Absolutely, just unbelievable start for Tommy Hawk. It's not like that's the only thing he can do right. He can obviously He can hit the baseball. He can get on base. Obviously, he's doing that if he's getting the stolen bases. But 280 average, definition of your dream walk or leadoff hitter in the lineup.
So to put this in perspective in terms of the major leagues, by the way, there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that have more stolen bases than Tommy Hawk. 8. Only 8 teams in the league have more stolen bases than Tommy Hawk. And in terms of individual performers, it's Luis Robert who leads the MLB with 15. And Tommy Hawk is more than doubling that. Now, you can say what you want about, it's, easier to run in single A on single A catchers. Sure, there's definitely something to do with that. But when your walk to strikeout ratio is just about 1, you have an on-base percentage of 433, you have 32 steals. I'm going to sit here and admit to you right now, Taven, Asbel Gonzalez, who is 1 behind Tommy Hawk, is an overall better player. Just take a look at the numbers. It'll tell you that. He's got 15 more hits than Tommy Hawk. The batting average is over 400. The on-base percentage is over 500. The OPS is nearing 1,000. Asbel Gonzalez is going to turn into a very, very good player. But with the efficiency and the way that Tommy Hawk is stealing these bases, it's unlike anything I have ever seen.
Yeah, and I just did the math real quick. He obviously got that in 1 month. Probably not going to keep this up. If he would, September, he'd end with 160 stolen bases.
Jeez. Teams eventually are going to figure him out and are going to get some pickoff moves going and whatnot. But Tommy Hawk, if you somehow are watching this, keep it up, man. I mean, you are doing
unbelievable stuff.
Absolutely unbelievable work. Just unbelievable.
Crazy.
We will try to save the rave about Tommy Hawk unless he steals 4 bags in a game again. But at this point, Taven is just going to become the norm for him. So, okay, talked about Lynchburg. Let's now
segment.
Yeah. Again, weekly checkup on Tommy Hawk might not be too bad of an idea. Let's move on to diving into Lake County just a little bit more. Again, Lake County was not really Rake County. There were some guys that performed really, really well. Christian Knapsick went 8 for 19. Alfonso Rosario went 7 of 20. Jacob Cozart 6 of 20, and a bunch of other guys peppered in some pretty decent batting averages as well. Taven, this was just not a team that could get a whole lot of runs across the plate. Again, besides that 13 run fiasco that they had in the opening game of the series, they didn't score over 5 runs, and no one hit a homer. There were plenty of extra base hits to go around for Lake County this past series. But Taven, there's one guy that I really want to highlight, especially that, again, you could highlight guys that did a pretty good job. And I think Christian Knapsick is a guy that you have to look at and say, man, how hot has he been? But Ralphie Velasquez really, really struggled this past week. He only went 2 of 26. That was the most amount of at-bats among anyone throughout the captain's organization this past cycle. And he struck out 9 times. Now, granted, both times he did get on base. He did come around to score. off of 2 hits. He did come around to score 2 runs, so that's going to look good on his part. But 9 strikeouts, didn't draw a walk, didn't bring a single run home, only 2 hits and 26 at-bats. You expect a lot more from one of the premier prospects in the organization. Can you chalk it up to a bad week, though?
Yeah, I think, you just look at the scores. It kind of seems like Lake County's offense and, pitching staff were kind of flipped this week. Normally it's the pitching staff that kind of struggles. The offense has to pick them up. This week it was the opposite. And the offense really couldn't get anything going against Lansing. Pitching staff, they were either really on or really off, in my opinion. You give up 5 runs, and then you give up 1, and then, 4 again, and then give up 1. So really big bright spot, Matt Wilkinson. Huge bounce back.
Yes, huge bounce back. Can we overstate how huge that is? I don't think so.
Huge. Absolute. Just for the whole mental side alone of things, not just the results you're giving the team, just the mental side for yourself.
Absolutely
huge. Then you factor in the results that you're giving the team. Absolutely beautiful work from Matt Wilkinson, Dylan DeLucia, and then the offense. They had their games. Friday they played a really good game offensively. You put up 5 runs. That's obviously a good day, but again, I think it comes down to what we've kind of been saying in this opening month is that your stars have struggled. Ralphie Velasquez, he hasn't lived up to what everybody may have hoped. Jason Churio's hitting up, below 215, and he only has 1 jack on the year, home run. So, it's really been these role players, like I kind of touched on before the season, that's led into Lake County's success this season. Christian Knapsick, he's been absolutely on fire for this team. Jonah Vicula, a huge guy who I said needs to make a huge leap for Lake County to have success, and he's absolutely done that. Johnny Tincher, catcher, hitting 300. So you have the guys that are doing it. Your superstars really aren't. It'd be nice to see those guys really bounce back, and you're starting to see that with the pitching staff, and hopefully it trickles its way down to your hitting superstars. But I think that Lake County played a really nice series altogether, and it's really just, in my opinion, the biggest thing for Lake County is to get your superstars headed in the right direction, because if you do, then you're going to be good for, the rest of the month and going into June, the rest of this first half of the season.
Again, in highlighting this pitching staff and how quickly they had turned things around, Dylan DeLucia, 2 starts, 8 innings, only allowed 2 hits, struck out 9. Matt Wilkinson, in 1 start, 5 innings, only allowed 2 hits, struck out 6 with a 1.18 average against the likes of the Lansing Lugnuts in that start. And then even some other guys here out of the pen. Josh Harlow, 4 scoreless innings out of him this past week. Steven Perez, 3 scoreless innings out of him. 3 scoreless innings, or I should say, an ERA of 0. Jack Jasike did allow 1 run. However, it wasn't earned and unfortunately got the loss. It's, again, the most overrated stat in baseball. Yorman Gomez, in 1 game, he came out of the bullpen and pitched 4 innings, scoreless out of him. And even Kyle Scott, 3 innings of 1-run baseball, which you can't overstate how huge that is. And again, just a bunch of other guys that are pitching pretty darn well here for this team so far, or at least as of late, they're pitching really well. Again, I'll agree with what you said. That's absolutely huge. We'll move on and dive on into the Ducks a little bit. It is nice to see Travis Bazzana sort of have this resurgence after he started to come back down to earth. I think a lot of people around the Guardians organization were just saying, how quickly can we get Travis Bazzana up here? How quickly is Travis Bazzana going to start to climb these ranks? And again, it's been pretty much about what I thought. He's playing well. He's been really, really good defensively. The bat still needs some time, and he still needs those at-bats. However, the 2 home runs, that's going to give you a whole lot of confidence for Travis Bazzana. Shout out to Khalil Watson. He's really starting to figure it out. Cooper Ingle is staying hot.
Yep.
But overall, again, Alex Mooney, Tyrese Turner, those are guys that had some pretty solid series. Justin Boyd, after being sent down from Columbus, showed why he deserves to be in a Clippers uniform. He feels like he hit 294. But besides Khalil Watson here and Cooper Ingle, there really was no one, Taven, that you really will look at and the eyes sort of bulge out of your head at. Because even with those 2 home runs from Travis Bazzana, the dude struck out 8 times. And yeah, Justin Boyd bounced back, went 5 of 17. That's almost a 300 average, struck out 8 times. lots of up and down things to look at with this Akron hitting. As far as Akron pitching goes, again, your takeaway was Thor and how well he had pitched. Austin Peterson continues to pitch really, really well. Alonzo Richardson has been up and down. Tommy Mace threw 6 scoreless innings. Rorik Maltrud had a massive bounce back after he just didn't start the season that great. But there were a couple other guys that posted really concerning numbers this week. Ross Carver was not that good. Magnus Ellerts was not that good. Sean Rapp was not that good. It's a mixed bag for the Ducks right now. And I think losing CJ Kayfus is a part of that. And the pitching staff is still trying to find its footing.
Yeah, I would argue that, losing Kayfus was the biggest part of this.
I agree.
Offense getting in a little bit of a slump. Watson's obviously on fire. He's hitting 270. He's really figured out becoming the guy that he was a first-round draft pick at the end of the day. A lot of people forget that. He's been traded to the Guardians, and I think he still has the potential to do that, and we're seeing it now. Cooper Ingle, he's getting hot with the bat. Bazana's heating a little bit back up, which is good, but the rest of this lineup has really cooled down. Jorge Burgos, he's really cooled down, hitting 222. Dian Frias hitting under 200 after the real hot start that he was on. So it sucks to see a lot of these guys, kind of cooling down. Do I think they can, heat back up? 100%. We saw at the beginning of the year. Still early in the season, but the hitting's not, it wasn't where it once was. And I think that's where you saw a ton of this Akron success.
Absolutely.
And the biggest part of that was you lost Kayfus. And I think that was obviously the biggest part. I think you would agree with that as well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely would agree. Again, Travis Bazana needs to take these reps, which he's an unbelievable talent. And as soon as he develops and gets his game to be the best it can be, I think he's going to be unstoppable once he does reach the big league club in Cleveland. But you need those reps and you need the at-bats. And when you keep climbing the ranks, you're going to face tougher and tougher pitchers. The home runs are a great thing to see. The 8 strikeouts, though, yikes, that's a little tiny alarm that goes off. Again, nothing major, nothing that you'll look at and say, wow, I have some real concern about how this kid is progressing. I don't have any concern with the way that Travis Bazana has been progressing at all. I think this organization is doing a really good job at progressing him. I just simply think that, maybe Guardians fans, I think, need to have a little bit more patience on Travis Bazana.
Yeah, for sure. And then I would say there's positives with this Akron team too. After the hot start, I think one of which is your pitching struggle at the beginning of the year. Guys like Davenport and Mace, they've really bounced back. And I think a big guy that we saw this week bounce back other than Davenport was Tommy Mace. He had a great outing this week, 6 innings, 3 hits, 4 strikeouts, no runs. So you love to see that out of your ace, the 26-year-old. So obviously we're going to see him, you would think, in Columbus this season. So hopefully he can just figure stuff out at the AA level. And so hopefully these other guys can too. Maltrud, he had a huge bounce back week, like you said.
Yeah, huge.
Davenport, huge bounce back week. So these pitchers are really starting to find their groove. It's just, can that offense come around? And if they can, they're going to be that same dominant team that you saw earlier in the opening few weeks for Akron. And a big part of that, in my opinion, is a guy who's going to be coming back in about a week or two from Guardians' prospect of what we've been seeing is Angel Hanao. So, Hanao, Angel Hanao, number 3 prospect. So that'll obviously, build a ton of hype, anticipation around that. And you pair him alongside Bazana, should be trending back in the right direction.
Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Before we do go ahead and talk about the Columbus Clippers, do want to give an update on what is happening with the Cleveland Guardians. Their series opener against the Washington Nationals has officially been postponed. A lot of rain in the DC area, so that has been postponed. I have not seen anything about a makeup date or anything of the like. As of right now, I will be checking Guardians' Instagram and Twitter, and hopefully we can provide an update to all of you later on during the show. But until then, let's go ahead and dive on into the likes of the Columbus Clippers. Taven, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad to talk about with this team. It just really isn't all coming together for the Clippers right now. And look, I would be pretty I think I'd be pretty stupid to not recognize the fact that having delay after delay after delay can affect a team, especially when you're playing at home. I'm actually surprised it didn't affect St. Paul more because they were on the road.
Yeah, for sure. They played through it like it was a regular series.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other way to put it. But there is a lot of good with Columbus and the three guys that hit home runs this past week: Will Brennan, CJ Kayfus, and Jonathan Rodriguez. We'll talk about the mainstays first. Will Brennan hit 500 this past week. He went 10 of 20, had a home run. Again, though, the RBIs were really, really struggling for this team. CJ Kayfus, his AAA debut was absolutely fantastic. He's doing everything in Columbus that he did down in Akron and previously in Lake County. He went 5 of 14, has a 1.081 OPS throughout his time in Columbus so far. 1 home run, but only 2 RBIs, but the batting average gives you a lot of confidence. And Jonathan Rodriguez, we know what he's done in AAA. He was the AAA MVP last year. 8 of 17, slugged a homer, led the Clippers with 4 RBIs this past series. Walk to strikeout ratio is even really impressive. 3 walks drawn to only 2 strikeouts. He's hitting 471, and all 3 of the guys I mentioned there are at least a 1.08 OPS on the season. But everyone else, Taven, I mean, Petey Halpin went 6 of 18, but he only drove in 1 run. Cody Huff went 3 of 9, but he only drove in 2 runs. Dom Nunez only 1 for 9. Micah Pries 1 for 9. Milan Tolentino 1 for 13. Yordis Valdez more so disappointing with the glove. He's a usually sure-handed shortstop, and there were a lot of balls that I thought he should have had that he just didn't handle the way I've seen him handle the baseball like he did down there in Akron. Christian Cairo didn't do anything at all besides draw a couple walks, come around to score. And then when you talk about the pitching staff for this team, I mean, Parker Messick had a pretty okay day, 9 strikeouts, but did allow 2 runs to cross the plate and score. Slade Ciccone in a rehab start didn't look the best. Ryan Webb didn't look up to his best, although there are some numbers that'll say, hey, that's a pretty good number. 6 strikeouts, no walks in 5 innings. Will Dion pitched okay. Doug Nikhazy was not himself. Ever since being called up to Cleveland, he has really, really struggled down the stretch. Carter Spivey was, I mean, taken at face value, just awful. Bradley Hanner was not himself. Andrew Misiazek was not pitching that well. The really one guy that I'll say pitched up to his best and what we know he can do, Taven, was Zach Kent, 3 2/3. 4 hits, a no-run baseball with 6 strikeouts and 2 walks. But the whip was really, really high for him. So even that's a good cause for concern. Again, it's a Clippers team that I think just needs to gel right now. I think they got a lot of work to do after the start that they had where they started out fairly hot.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I think they went through a lot of reconstruction. If you really look at the lineup, a ton happened from last year. You know, you had Valera, you had DeLauder, you had guys like Angel Martinez, just guys that aren't there anymore. And those were the main superstars. So I think now Columbus is in kind of that. I don't think rebuild's the good word because you don't ever really rebuild with a minor league team, but they're kind of getting that new wave of guys, if that makes sense, in my opinion. You know, your Petey Halpins, guys like that have to figure it out, who are going to be the main, you know, your go-to superstars in Columbus. At the moment, they don't really have a guy other than Will Brennan, who's a major leaguer. And I'm going to get into this.
You could argue J-Rod.
Yeah, and Jonathan Rodriguez, who's one of the best AAA players of all time. But Will Brennan, a guy who I'll get into this probably in a little bit, he should be in the major league level. But I think it's just a lot of guys just moving around, a ton of guys moving around. You even had name is slipping. Who always pitches? Denholm, Trenton Denholm. Yeah. You have him going up and down. So you got a lot of guys moving all over the place. Nikhazy going up and down. I think it's just going to take time for this team to get back to what it was. You know, just looking back from last year, this team has had like an entire 180 if you really look at it, because you lost Valera, DeLauder, Lavastida, Reynel Delgado, just Angel Martinez, just a ton of guys. And you really look at it, I think it's just going to take time for these guys to really click, glue, and just kind of figure it out in, you know, AAA, because a lot of these guys are young and they've never played AAA. You know, Valdez, Huff, Halpin, this is their first,
Tolentino.
First full month of AAA. So I just think experience is just going to be the biggest part of this AAA squad, and see if they can figure it out.
Absolutely. And I do also want to say, just in case any people out there are getting confused, Chase DeLauder and George Valera are still with the organization.
Yep.
They are just quite
list.
simply on the injured list. And even you can throw Chase DeLauder into that mix. Yeah, he played AAA last year, but he wasn't there for that long. And again, the at-bats and everything are really, really important when you want to climb that ladder. Chase DeLauder can come back and dominate. George Valera can come back and dominate. That's the type of player those two guys can be. And we'll just have to wait and see in terms of that regard. We are going to get into some guard ball, speaking of guard. But first, we have to talk about some transactions that did happen. So the Guardians, the big league club, did acquire Michael Festa, one of the two, I believe it's Matt Festa, from the Texas Rangers for cash consideration. So there's a big boost to the bullpen. We possibly could see him pitch in a Clipper uniform this year, but odds are he could stay with the big league club for quite some time. And there actually were a lot of demotions this past week, not a lot of promotions. Vince Velasquez got DFA'd by the big league club. So he has accepted his outright position to Columbus after clearing waivers. And then Trenton Denholm and Carter Spivey have both dropped down a level. They were with Columbus and now have dropped down to the Akron Rubber Ducks. A couple other things. Franco Aleman, welcome back to Columbus. We'll see him pitch in their upcoming series. He got activated off the 7-day IL. And then again, another demotion, this one from AA to High A. Alonzo Richardson has moved from Akron to Lake County.
Yeah. A lot of moves, like you said. I mean, just guys really going up and down. Spivey and Denholm have probably moved, 4 or 5 times already, and we're only in May.
A lot. That's crazy.
So, yeah, a lot of opportunities, a lot of guys just moving up and down. Just see how they do. You know, it's if you really look at it, it's a lot of the same guys that we've seen moving. Spivey, Denholm, Kent, just kind of that bunch of relievers up in Cleveland. So it should be interesting to see how the new guy does, though.
Before we dive into the big league club, let's try to give you an update on what the situation is looking like for the Cleveland Guardians. So it is officially going to be a doubleheader on Tuesday. I do want to get the official post here from the Guardians organization. Okay, so it looks like the Guardians have just reposted a lot of things. They have not made a post themselves. They reposted Nationals Park post, which says, quote, tonight's game has been postponed due to rain and rescheduled as part of a traditional doubleheader tomorrow, Tuesday, May 6th. First pitch will be at 3:35 p.m. Eastern time. The second game will begin approximately 30 minutes after the first game ends. Your probable starting pitchers for Tuesday's doubleheader: Luis Ortiz in Game 1 and Ben Lively in Game 2. So it's not like a Boston situation where you're going to have a guy make his major league debut and Doug Nikhazy. It will be two guys that have been honestly pitching pretty well for the Guardians as of late. But we are going to talk about the guard ball realm, and Taven, we're going to talk about it in this way. There are a lot of guys that are still doing their thing in Cleveland, right? The pitching staff has been up and down, but there are a lot of guys that are starting to find more consistency.
Just got a Guardians prospective tweet.
Cleveland
Guardians 23-year-old top prospect Chase DeLauder has been added to the Arizona Complex league roster for rehab assignment. DeLauder will slowly build up to a 9-inning game before headed out to AAA Columbus. So it looks like he would just straight up go start in AAA.
And to think about all the talent that this organization can be adding as well. You mentioned Angel Yanao, and even when you talk with the big league club, I mean, we obviously know Shane Bieber is trying to rehab. We know John Means is still trying to rehab. Slade Ciccone is rehabbing in Columbus right now. David Fry is trying to get back healthy. George Valera is trying to get back healthy. Juan Brito, of course, went on the IL not too long ago. He's going to try his best to get back healthy fast. There's a lot of talent this Guardians team and organization can add in the near future. I think if the Guardians can keep this up and just continue to find ways to win, this could be a very dangerous team in June and July, and a very dangerous organization as a whole. Probably more towards July, August area.
Yeah, I think I really made the point. Like, if you can just tread water until June, you're going to be a playoff team. Like, if you can just tread water for 500, slightly above 500, there's no reason why you shouldn't be a wild card team, because you're only gaining talent, from this point. like in, David Fry. Bieber's going to be back to help the pitching staff probably in July, but still, you're going to have David Fry come back. Maybe John Means later on in the season. And a guy like that can really give depth to your starting lineup or starting rotation, and maybe even the bullpen if you need him in that role. So got a lot of talent coming back. And the fact that you're, I believe, 5 games over 500 at the moment with your pitching not being the greatest, guys as Noel and Jones, they're not playing good at all. So I think you're doing a real good job just hanging, especially with, your starting pitching not being the best and guys of that nature not hitting as well as you'd hope they would.
Yeah, so let's go through what has transpired with guard ball. Again, I just said that this is a team that keeps finding ways to win, man. I don't know how they do it. They pull something out of their you-know-what every single time. I think that a lot of these guys, especially in the pitching staff, have now been contracted to make things interesting, because that's exactly what Emmanuel Clase has been doing. He had a really good outing against Toronto and then came back and made it interesting again, although who knows what happens if that pitch at the heart of the plate, really at the knees, at the thighs, is called a strike instead of a ball, which it absolutely should have been, because you know what happens from that point forward. Clase was able to get out of it. How about Hunter Gaddis getting himself out of a bases-loaded jam? I mean, Cleveland pitching just continues to amaze. But Taven, to me, that is not the storyline for the Cleveland Guardians. I know that's a really easy storyline to point to, because Clase is just not pitching to what we saw out of Clase last year. And Guardians pitching is making things interesting. They're getting themselves out of a lot of jams and leaving a lot of runners stranded on base for the opposing teams. But it's been a lot of these younger guys, or for lack of better terminology, we'll say more inexperienced guys, that are stepping to the plate. Kyle Manzardo, 8 home runs, 20 RBIs, both lead the big league club. Bo Naylor, he's slugged 5 home runs. He's really starting to come around, especially behind the plate. Austin Hedges, I think, is a big reason why. Gabriel Arias, I told you not to doubt him, and Gabriel Arias is making it impossible to give up on him right now. You're going to talk about Daniel Schneemann in a little bit, because I know you're wickedly excited about that. I think it's only a matter of there you go. I think it's only a matter of time before Angel Martinez gets that first home run over the fence, but he's hitting over 300 right now. Will Wilson is really the only guy that's come up that hasn't made an impact with the big league club. Same thing with Jonathan Rodriguez, who really just struggled in what very few at-bats he got when getting called up. And your veterans are still doing your thing. Like Steven Kwan is playing Gold Glove defense. He's hitting 333, playing well. Jose Ramirez is doing mostly Jose Ramirez things. I've even been fairly impressed with the way Carlos Santana has been playing. But it's this young core of guys that are up and coming with this team. They have their veterans like Ramirez and Kwan and Santana and Austin Hedges that are there to lead them. But I mean, let's start with Kyle Manzardo. His progression has come a long way, and his defense at first base has gotten so much better. I love watching Manzardo play, and he's been an everyday player in either that DH or at that first base role. They really are switching him in out with Carlos Santana, which Stephen Vogt didn't start the season like that. He's really come along, and I'm stupidly impressed with the way that Manzo has played so far this year.
1000%. He's one of the biggest reasons why you're in the position that you're in. I mean, clutch base hits, just he does everything right. He can hit for power, he can hit for contact. Whatever you need done it's what he can do. I think he's one of the biggest reasons and biggest guys that you've leaned on to this point of why you've been able to sustain being over 500 and you win very close games. And even defensively, he's made some very good plays defensively.
Absolutely.
Too, at first base. So dude's absolutely unreal in that, just filling in and progressing quick, because he didn't really have a ton of time to sit behind a guy. They kind of just threw him in. I know they kind of platoon him and Santana, but Manzardo, if you look at the lineups, he's an everyday player. And sitting behind Santana from a defensive standpoint, you could see, but hitting, he's not really sitting behind anybody. He's getting DH reps, or he's at first base himself. So he's hitting every day. He's progressed very, very nicely. And obviously he's one of the biggest reasons why you're where you're at right now.
Gabriel Arias is up next for me. I, again, told you from what I'd seen from him in the Venezuelan league. He was going to come back and he was going to make it impossible for you to give up on him. And that's exactly what he's doing. I mean, 4 home runs. He's 27 for 103. That's a 262 batting average. His walk to strikeout ratio is horrendous. But beyond that, I mean, Gabriel Arias has been one of the really big key pieces here for the Cleveland Guardians, especially in this past series against Toronto. He was magnificent. And man, that defense has come so far.
Yep. You said it perfectly. I mean, you needed a guy to fill in at second base, and you got that exactly in Arias. Will he sustain it? I'm still on the fence.
I still am too. Even though I have probably more confidence than you, still on the fence.
But you cannot doubt, and I was a doubter at the beginning of the year. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, I was on the Arias train all along. I wasn't. But you can't deny what he's been doing. He's been filling in great at second base. And I just great job for Gabriel Arias and
for a guy that bounced up and down between the Guardians and
the big league. Yeah.
I mean, great to see out of him. Bo Naylor. Let's talk about him first before I let you rave about your guy. Bo Naylor, the batting average, the OPS, the on-base percentage, it still doesn't look great. But you look at the walk-to-strikeout ratio, it's a whole lot better than what it was. He's tied for second on the team in home runs. He is tied with Jose Ramirez for the second most home runs on this club. That, to me, is wickedly impressive. He has a couple of extra base hits. He's driving in runs. He's one of the few Guardians with double-digit RBIs on the season. He has stolen a base somehow this year, and I actually am going to pull up his defensive metrics because when you watch him play, Taven, Austin Hedges is really rubbing off on this kid.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think you make really good points, and I think defensively we're gonna disagree, but hitting you were right on. Average 184, obviously not great. OPS 692. It's all right for a catcher, but the boy found some power, and that's what you really need. Last year he wasn't hitting average or homers, and at least he's doing one now. So at least he's really coming around on that end. Defensively is where we're gonna disagree. I don't think defensively he's came around really at all. I don't think I've seen him throw one guy out this season. Just watching a game, I'm sure he probably has, but I haven't.
Oh yeah, he has.
How many does he have?
So let's compare it, and this is the reason that I say this. It's been the most impressive thing with Bo Naylor has been his pop time. Pop time for a catcher is how quickly you can get it from pitch to out of the glove and right down to second base to try to throw out would-be base stealers. 2023, he only threw out 8 batters. He only threw out 8 would-be base stealers in 66 attempts. Last year in 2024, he threw out 16 in 77 attempts. So that's not bad. This year, he's thrown out 7 in 30, which, again, is still not fantastic, but damn it, is it so much better than I think what we're used to seeing out of Bo Naylor. And even his blocks. I know MLB.com is not going to do it justice, so I'm actually going to pull up his Baseball Savant page and look at it that way. In terms of catching, his framing rate. Oh, framing is the biggest thing with Bo Naylor, too.
Yeah.
Last year, it just wasn't great. And his pop time still is not even in the high percentages. His caught stealing above average is in the higher percentages, but it's at flat 0, so make of that what you will. His framing is in the 89th percentile. He's getting pitches that should be called balls to get called strikes. And if you also look at something, there was a chart that got put out a little bit ago on how often teams are getting the calls, so to speak. Cleveland is second on that list in terms of the biggest plus-minus differential on their pitchers, and their hitters are both getting calls, meaning their pitchers are getting balls called strikes, and their hitters are getting strikes called balls. They're up there, and a big reason for that is, I think, because of Bo Naylor. That's the biggest improvement. His blocking is still not good. He's still not a big body behind the plate, but his pop time is getting better. His frame rate is getting better. And, again, me saying that, I'm not saying Bo Naylor's now like this otherworldly defensive catcher. He's not. He's got a long way to go. But I think you see the progression, and I think Austin Hedges is starting to have that impact on the young Naylor brother.
I would say I see the progression and everything. The only thing I'm not sold on is just his arm and getting the ball there to throw runners out.
And I would agree with you.
Right. And I think everybody would. But like you said, I think the framing, obviously way better. Blocking still not great, but from what it was last year, I think it's totally progressed. So I think every little thing that he's doing right, especially pop time too, there's no question if he can get it out of the glove in time. That's not the question. It's can he get it to the second baseman, in my opinion. He's got a long way to go, and he's got the right mentor to teach him that. Austin Hedges, one of the best defensive catchers in the league. I think we would both agree. That's obviously the bat is what's setting him back of being an everyday or a 2 out of 3 game catcher. But yeah, I think he's coming around nicely. If he could just get the average to like 225, 230, that'd be pretty freaking nice. But at the rate he's going, no complaints for Bo Naylor whatsoever.
And to back up what we're saying about Austin Hedges, his caught stealing above average is in the 89th percentile. His frame rate is right there with Bo Naylor's. He's in the 87th percentile. His blocks above average is in the 61st percentile. Austin Hedges is everything you want a catcher to be behind the plate. I'm going to let you talk about your boy whose jersey you're wearing today.
Oh, it is time. Was I right about Daniel Schneemann, folks? 274, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and a .896 OPS. Are you kidding me?
He's turning into an everyday player. Go look at that game against Toronto. All 5 RBIs. I think Daniel Schneemann is the first player. Okay, so I should send this with caveat. I know you saw this tweet. You probably retweeted it. If you can actually find it and clip it, put it up so the people know that I'm not lying. I will say it, and then we'll get it on screen here in just a minute if you can find it.
Oh, it's right here. I almost made it my wallpaper.
Okay, put it up. Put it up. I'll slide over. Maybe it'll cut me off. Who knows?
We're getting it.
All right. And the reason I also want you to put the tweet up is I just don't want to get the facts wrong because from what I remember, I think he was the first player in a long time, and you'll see the reason why we're saying in a long time.
And I got a funny story that goes with
there you go. Okay, so let me read the tweet and you can go with the funny story. Daniel Schneemann of the Cleveland Guardians is the second player in MLB history, and the MLB has included Negro Leagues in their record books now, so that includes that as well, to have a multi-home run game on the road that included a game-winning grand slam with his team trailing and down to its final out. Only other player to do it was Babe Ruth. I want to preface this by I'm not comparing the two. Daniel Schneemann is not Babe Ruth. I don't think – no, stop it. Daniel Schneemann is not Babe Ruth. He will never be Babe Ruth. But that's an incredible stat. That's one you hang on your wall.
1,000%. I mean, right? Schneemann comes up to the plate, bases loaded, and I was watching a game with my dad, and I looked at him and I said, "Who else would you want up to the plate besides Babe Ruth?" And
did you actually?
I did, and I received a laugh, and then he sent a ball probably 450 into right field, and we come out with the win. So. You know, I believe that I've been a Schneemann fan since 2021 when he was in Lake County, and then he went to Akron, and I met the dude countless times in Akron. Just an amazing dude. Love everything he's about. Just knew he'd come around in the big leagues. Last year was putting out tweets every day until he was, moved up to the big leagues, and it's really starting to pay off, and it's fun to watch. 275 batting average. That's my most impressive thing with him. A lot of people thought he was just going to be a role kind of fill-in guy. 275.
And hey, much like you with Gabby Arias, that's been me with Daniel Schneemann. I'm like, okay, he's going to be a solid enough player, but I don't think he's going to turn into this everyday. And I'm not ready to say he's a star yet, but he's not going to turn into an everyday player. He's turning into an everyday player. Him and Gabby Arias, if Brian Rocchio continues to struggle like this and the Guardians make the playoffs, Arias and Schneemann are probably going to be your everyday shortstop second base tandem with Schneemann playing second, Arias playing short.
Yeah.
And Schneemann can play the outfield. Arias, no. Schneemann can.
Schneemann can play anywhere but first and catcher. I've seen him.
Yep.
Absolute unit. What a start for Schneemann.
He can even play third if they're going to give Jose Ramirez a quasi off day and play him at DH. They've done that with Gabby Arias. He's played third. He's got the arm for it too. And Schneemann, you play the outfield. Well, you're going to have an arm to play the hot corner in third base. And again, 4 home runs, including the multi-homer one. I mean, the only thing I want to see Schneemann get better at is the walk to strikeout ratio. Other than that, kid's been phenomenal. Can't complain.
Yeah, and I think you really have to look at the possibility of him being the everyday player. And I know you're going to touch on this. We were talking about this before the pod, especially with the bunting situation of Rocchio. But if Rocchio's, defensively, not a question, but he's slipping with the bat, I think we could start to see a little bit of a change if you really need some offense out of Daniel Schneemann. Because Schneemann's good. He's a good. I wouldn't say he's as good as a defender as Rocchio, but he is a heck of an infielder too.
Yes.
Where you can plug him in, especially if he's giving you 275 production at the plate with some power now. Why not make the switch?
And I think Will Wilson is showing some promise-ish, but Daniel Schneemann has really exploded. No wonder they kept him on the big league team throughout the course of this season. He's really starting to come through and shine. And who knows? Sometimes guys get hot. Maybe this is the usual for Daniel Schneemann. Maybe this is just him getting hot. You could say the same thing about the guy that I've liked since the beginning of the year in Gabby Arias. Angel Martinez is the other guy that we haven't touched on yet, but we've raved about him on the podcast before and how he was really starting to figure things out in Columbus, especially with Lane Thomas hurt. He is right now looking like the everyday center fielder, especially with Schneemann and Arias playing as well as they are. And Angel Martinez, the defense sucked last year from him in the outfield. It's gotten a lot better. Is it perfect? No, not even close. But again, he's becoming, I'm not ready to say he's becoming a Stephen Kwan because he draws no walks, but he doesn't really strike out that much, and he can steal bases like Kwan can. So really excited to see what Angel Martinez can do through the future among all the young prospects that we had talked about here. Again, Arias showing out. Bo Naylor is starting to get there with the bat and with the defense. Angel Martinez is coming around. Kyle Manzardo has panned out exactly how everyone hoped he would, and then more. But Taven, I told you this stat before, and you did not know this at all. MLB and ESPN puts out an expected win-loss. So through the amount of games that you've played, they've given you an expected record of like, okay, this is what your team probably should be hovering around if baseball was played on paper. Right now, the Guardians are 20-14. Flip the two numbers, and that's their expected win-loss right now. They're supposed to be 14-20.
Unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable.
I mean, you look at the starting pitching production, just go look at their numbers. It's kind of insane that you have the record that you do. And that's not a shot to the starting pitching. They've all been in slumps. We've seen that out of everybody. Bibee hasn't looked great this year. Neither has Ortiz. Gavin Williams has had his fair share of struggles. That's been for sure. And then that fifth kind of starter, whether it's, Nikhazy or I think Logan Allen's been very consistent. He's probably been your most consistent guy, him and Lively. But with the exception of those two guys, and they haven't, even the way I'm talking about them, it's as they're if the one and two guys, and you can't have that. They're not fit to sit that role,
right?
In your rotation is what I'm trying to get at. Like they're great 3/4 guys, but I mean, at the moment they're your ace, and I don't think you can have that. I think Bibee really needs to turn around. Same with Gavin Williams. And yeah, if they do that, I think, that stat becomes a little more believable. But if you look at it now in the pitching stats, it's kind of shocking how we have that.
Yeah, and the team is second right now in the AL Central. They're only behind the Detroit Tigers, who have been a wagon this year. Watch out for Detroit, man. They are going to be they are going to be a real problem. So the MLB actually has a different number than what I saw on ESPN. The MLB.com officially has the Guardians' expected win-loss record at 15-19, which again is still the Guardians well exceeding expectations. But Taven, here is why. They're 3-0 in extra inning games. They are 8-1 in one-run games, and that is by far and away the best record in baseball. The next closest couple are the Phillies are 6-2. Same thing with the Los Angeles Angels, and then a division rival in Kansas City is 5-2. in one-run games. The Guardians have also been a really, really good team at home. Obviously, they're on the road right now in our nation's capital against the feisty Nationals team, man. I would really watch out for them. But Guardians are also a game and a half ahead of the wild card standing right now, which I know means absolutely nothing up to this point in the season. But they're also 10-3 against the AL Central. 10-3. They've lost 2 to Kansas City. And by the way, the only one-run game they lost was to Kansas City. It was the second game of the year. And then they've only lost 2 to Kansas City and 1 to the Twins. They've swept the White Sox. I'm going to be fascinated when the Guardians finally play Detroit. Oh, I want that series now so bad. I think that's going to be a phenomenal series. But I am really concerned that Detroit might blow the Guardians out of the water. I will say that. So
I think we can hang with them. I think it strictly depends on pitching starters.
There's a 3-game series with the Twins and then a 3-game series with the Tigers, back-to-back road stretch from Monday the 19th to, it's a 4-game series with Detroit. So Monday the 19th to Sunday the 25th, that whole week, divisional road games. The Guardians have played most of their divisional games at home. They've gotten the Twins at home. They got the White Sox at home. The only series they played on the road against the divisional opponent has been Kansas City, and it was to open the season. Granted, they took 2 of 3, but Kansas City wasn't rolling like they are now. That road trip there for the Guardians, in fact, they play a lot of baseball away from Progressive Field in the month of May. Of course, they're on this 6-game road stretch right now. They come back home for 6 games, but then they're on the road for 10, 3 in Cincinnati, 3 in Minnesota, and 4 in Detroit. And then you have to come right back home and play the Dodgers on home field. Yeesh, man. This May schedule is pretty rough for the Guardians.
A little bit.
Other than that, you got anything else to add about guard ball? I mean, again, if this team just continues to find ways to win, they haven't lost a series since they lost the Red Sox series.
Yeah, looking good. Only other thing I have in this, I really want your input on this.
Sure.
Our right field situation, my friend. I'm going to throw up 3 player stats real quick and just throw out a name of who you would want in right field. Option number 1, 164, 2 home runs.
I can tell you who that is too, just by looking at it, but I'll save it. Go for it.
All right. Option number 2.
I can also tell you who that is. Yep.
Option number 3.
And these are AAA stats.
Yes, these are AAA stats. But you look at those 3 guys, number 1, 2, or 3. Who would you be?
If you're just going, I know where this is going, and
number 3 is Gold Glove caliber defender. Might I?
You've skewed the argument here, but I can tell you exactly who those 3 players are, and I'm sure the people out there could have told you as well. Number 1 was John Kenzie Noel. Number 2 was Nolan Jones, and number 3 is Will Brennan. And look, you can't send Nolan Jones down. You can't maybe send Jonk down, but I could see a world in which that happens. And in fact, I'd probably say 50-50 on that, whether they send Jonk down or not. The only difference is Will Brennan does not have as strong of an arm, in my opinion, as those 2 do. Now, Brennan's still got a fantastic arm. Like, I'm not dogging on Will Brennan's arm. Jonk has a certified cannon, does Big Christmas, and Nolan Jones isn't too bad out there either. And look, you're not sending Nolan Jones down, so let's scrap that right now. If you're telling me right now if I'd rather have Jonk or Will Brennan, I'd rather have Will Brennan.
Sure will. 1,000%.
So much rather have Will Brennan. I agree with you.
Will Brennan's been on absolute fire. I didn't get the decision to put him down in the minor leagues to begin the year, but 320, 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, 17 RBIs, .807 OPS. I mean, what are we doing? And like you said, in my opinion, Will Brennan, not just this season, but every single year that both of them have been with the organization, I think Will Brennan's been better in every category besides power and besides arm strength in right field. But if you're asking me, would you rather have a guy that's going to get to the big leagues and hit 264 opposed to 150, but his arm's a little, he doesn't throw as hard from the outfield? I'm taking that all day. Again, and he's way better in the outfield too. I want to say it was Toronto. It might have been game 2 of the Toronto series. Noel went for a ball at the wall and he like jumped for it. Do you know what I'm talking about? He like jumped for it and he didn't have to. And it like hit his glove and just practically bounced out.
I do know the play where Schneemann and Jonk went for the ball at the same time. It looked like they were sleeping on a sleep number on the outfield wall. I do know that play. That play is really funny, and that's print that one out and put it on your wall. That's unbelievable. I want to dive on into this conversation. I agree. Will Brennan should absolutely be brought up.
1,000%.
I think it's his time. Again, when you have a lot of other young guys like Schneemann and Arias coming up, why not just give Will Brennan that shot? He's been in Major League time. He's seen that aspect before. You can't send Nolan Jones down because you made the trade for him. He's got Major League experience. But we are seeing that, in fact, Nolan Jones, that season he had in Colorado, probably a prospect due to the stadium that he played in. Now, again, it's still really early. Nolan Jones can absolutely turn this thing around. Yep. But, again, you start to really judge players based on what they've done in the first 30, 40 games. You want to see a lot more out of Nolan Jones. You can't send Daniel Schneemann down. You can't send Gabby Arias down. I don't even think you can send Brian Arroquio down. Now, you can put Will Wilson back in AAA. He's just not getting the at-bats like not John Kenzie Noel, like Jonathan Rodriguez just didn't get at-bats. Played in 4 games, but only had 5 official at-bats, I think, in 6 or 7 plate appearances. You can send John Kenzie Noel down, but I think you need that absolute surefire power bat and the cannon of an arm to put in right field. If it were up to me, man, I really want to bring Will Brennan up. To me, the only guy you can send down for him is Will Wilson. And I know you'll disagree and you'll say John Kenzie Noel. To me, I think you need that. Again, I know the batting average and everything doesn't look great, but for what John Kenzie has done and what he can possess, which is the cannon in right field, as well as a pretty good power bat that can get you out of a jam and clear something over the wall if he puts a really good swing on it. He's also one of the biggest bodies you're ever going to see in the major leagues. I think if you're going to send a guy down, like it was nice that Will Wilson got this try. Maybe you give him a few more at-bats, but I think Will Wilson's going to come down and then Will Brennan's got to come up. So speak on that first, and then I have another point to make.
Yeah, so 2 things. One, I mean, you mentioned Noel, and what you said was, what he can do, like the power that he does possess. But we haven't seen it this year. Only 2 home runs, and we're into May. Only 2. And I'm not saying he should have 10 by now. I'm not saying even he should have 8, but he should at least, if you're going to hit 164, you should at least have 4 by now. Or maybe even 5 with Bo Naylor.
Disagree with you.
You've seen it on a Bo Naylor. He has 5. I don't see why not Noel can't have 5. If that's his specialty and he's there for power, he should at least have 5 home runs at the moment. So
I can't disagree with that at all.
Right, Will Brennan,
argue against it.
Will Brennan, we've seen what he does, and I'd rather not even roll the dice. I just rather make that swap for a guy that's giving you production now than a what if type of guy. And then my second point is, you said would you rather have Will Wilson or Noel go down? I think it's going to be both, because let's not forget Lane Thomas. He's going to be coming back soon, so I think it's going to be Lane Thomas.
And that was the point I was going to bring up too.
And I think it's going to be Will Brennan.
Yeah, that was the point too, as well, is once Lane Thomas comes back, which could be any sort of minute now here, Lane Thomas is going to come back and is going to take one of the outfield spots. You're not sending Stephen Kwan down. That's a given. He's a Gold Glover. He's a special player. They need to sign him, please. Just because of what you're paying Nolan Jones and his major league experience, I don't think you put him down. And with the way Angel Martinez is playing right now, God forbid they send him down. There are going to be a lot of tough decisions that have to get made, especially if this is a team that's going to make a push towards playing some baseball in October. There are some really difficult decisions to make by this front office, and I'm thankful I'm not in it. Because I think Will Wilson, there's no shot he's with this team. And look, love him, love everything he did at the AAA level. There is no shot that he is with this club if they are playing October baseball. I think there's a really good chance Angel Martinez is. I think there's a really good chance John Kenzie Noel is. I think there's a really good chance that Will Brennan is. And you're absolutely going to have Lane Thomas and David Fry on the roster beyond that. So who do you like? It's going to be such a really tricky puzzle to figure out. And again, we don't know. We're assuming that the Guardians stay fully healthy, which we need them to, and we want them to, obviously. I'm so glad I'm not in that front office. There are so many tough decisions that are going to be made. It's unbelievable.
And I just wish you were able to send Jones down. That's the only kind of gripe that I have in decision. Obviously, it won't be made because you made the trade for the dude, and obviously you didn't lose the trade. I looked at Freeman's numbers; he's hitting 91, so it's not like
Freeman's
he gave up anything for Jones. So there's at least a little bit of a bright side with him. You know, his production not being the greatest. It's not like he gave up a great prospect that's now hitting like 300 in AAA or whatnot. But yeah, I think that's the only thing is, you know, Jones, Noel, I'm making the swap. One of them, obviously it would be Noel out of the two because you're not going to dump Nolan Jones down to AAA.
No.
I think you need to make that swap right now. Will Brennan, put him up at the least. Will Wilson, swap him out. Give me Will Brennan in right field.
And to even add to that point, too, you can then, if you drop Will Wilson down, then you're down an extra infielder. No big deal. You can slot Angel Martinez into the infield. That's a natural position for him anyway. And we've seen him play it this year. So it's not like that's out of the ordinary for Angel Martinez. They have used him a lot in center field. It's because he's fast. He's got good speed. And not only that, he's got a pretty good arm as well. But it's not like he can't play the infield. Listed as an outfielder, but the guy can play the infield. So the thing that I like, too, about this Guardians team is there's a lot of switch hitters. Now, not so much in terms of the prospects, but we know Jose can bat from both sides. Brian Rocchio, even though he's struggled, he can turn it back on. He can bat from both sides. So can Santana. So can Angel Martinez. So,
yeah.
There's another little tidbit to add. I did just notice
got a lot of guys.
Got
a lot of guys.
I think there are a lot of guys that can do a lot of really, really good things. Again, it's early in the season. We'll see sort of, where teams stand and whatnot towards the end of it. In terms of where the Guardians stand right now, they are scrolling, 14th on the latest ESPN Power Rankings. Right now, their win average in terms of, where they're about going to wind up is 82 games. I mean, 40% chance to make the playoffs there as well, which has increased significantly since last time they put it out. If there's one thing, Taven, that you absolutely need to change about this team, it's the play of Emmanuel Clase. It has to.
For sure. Yep.
Other than that, though, the pitching staff, Cade Smith is still pitching lights out. You can actually, and while I don't implore you to do this, you can go out and drive with the blood alcohol content that is equal to Hunter Gaddis's ERA. Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Bad idea. Never drink and drive. Just don't do it. That's not what I'm imploring.
Can we give a hand to Colby Allard and the performance he had in Toronto?
Yeah, man. Look.
What?
He came into relief pitch 6 innings and was flawless.
Yep.
And was
absolute
flawless.
Beast, inning eater. Hopefully he could turn into the Pedro Avila last year.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love that. And Colby Allard's a guy that's come out of the pen and started at the AAA level and in the minor league level there as well. Luis Ortiz has been off and on. Tanner Bibby's been off and on. Gavin Williams has been off and on. But again, this Guardians team just keeps finding a way to win. As long as they can keep taking 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, maybe you lose a series here and there. Like if they lose the series to the Dodgers, okay, whatever. That's, that's the Dodgers. That's not a big deal. There's still a lot of baseball left, and there's still a lot of things that could change, a lot of things that can go on. I feel pretty solid about where this team is at right now, Taven. I would feel a lot better if Clase was pitching stress-free. But honestly, even if Clase was pitching stress-free, for the most part, the results don't change for Cleveland. They're still sitting about the record they are.
Yeah, it's the only 2 gripes I have is really just Clase's production. Well, I guess 3. Starting pitchers could be a little better, and then right field. That's it.
Schneemann and Arias are filling that middle infield gap well. Manzardo's really coming along at first base, and obviously you have Carlos Santana there. You know where Josie's going to play. Kwan is there. Thomas or Martinez will play center field. Again, figure out your right field position. Continue to see the progression out of Bo Naylor. Get the pitching staff consistent. Could we be in for another 90-win season? I didn't think so at the beginning of the year. I'll be honest. I just didn't think that the Guardians were just going to continue to find ways to win. Am I sad that they're doing it? No. Why would I be?
Yeah.
All right, sir. Where can they find you? I got nothing else.
Well, we got to run through weekly schedules.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Silly me. Silly me. You are so correct.
And who everybody's got, because it is a big week.
It is a big week. It is a big week. You're in charge of standings to tell us where the teams that they're playing are going to be. So you start now from the top down. Hopefully, Columbus is not going to be rained out, which actually they have already postponed Tuesday's game against Worcester. They are going to be playing. Oh, wait, I am looking at their April schedule. Oh, never mind. I don't know what I was doing there. They are playing Indianapolis. They are going to be playing Indianapolis.
Yeah, a lot of ground to make up there as Columbus 4.5 back. Indianapolis
they really slipped.
Indianapolis is 3 back, so they're in that middle pack. So
and Columbus really, really slipped.
Yeah, they did.
If my MILB app load, I can tell you who is the starter if they have one announced. The Clippers usually don't, and they still don't. So we'll move on to the Akron Rubberducks. It's the Somerset Patriots for Akron. It is double bump week for Aaron Davenport, my friend.
This is probably the greatest week of the year. In 2025, Davenport not once but twice. Beautiful. And at home.
Yes. By the way, the Clippers are on the road against the Indianapolis Indians. Ducks at home against the 12-15 Somerset Patriots. I believe even though they did split the last series, Akron still sits pretty firm control unless Erie did something really good.
Yeah, so Akron and Erie both tied 17-10.
Okay.
Top of the division, obviously Erie beat Akron more times, so if there were a tiebreaker, it'd go to Erie. But tied right where you want to be with, the team that won't go away.
Humphreys is your game 1 starter for the Lake County Captains. They are 3rd right now. Sorry, Taven, I'm stealing your job, but you can tell us where Quad City is because this is a massive home series for the Lake County Captains.
Yeah, Quad City is sitting nice at 18-8 up at the top of the Midwest division. So it's going to be a tough one. Tough one for the Captains. They're sitting just above 500, 15-12. 3.5 game better record, Quad City. So we'll see how they do. And
one of the better names in high A baseball to me, the Quad Cities River Bandits. That is what they are. 6 games set at home again to begin Tuesday. Humphreys is your game 1 starter. And then for the Lynchburg Hillcats, they are on the road against Fredericksburg. We still don't know who's pitching for Lynchburg, but that is a road series with a very odd start time on Wednesday, by the way, 11:05 local, one of the early games.
Yeah, Lynchburg, they did what they needed to do, and they really pulled away. Everybody was kind of just they were kind of clogged outside of Delaware, and now they're starting to pull 2 games in front of Fayetteville, I believe.
And it's Delmarva.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I could see why that's confusing though. When I first looked at it, I thought that was Delaware too, but I had the big screen blow up too. So
yeah. But 2.5 out. So hopefully you make up ground.
All right, so where can they find you?
At McKelvey Media for the personal. Got a lot of high school stuff still coming out as we get into the last couple weeks of high school baseball.
You can find me at TailgateNate29, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever you prefer to call it, even Snapchat if you prefer to add me that way. I usually add everybody back that adds me, so feel free to do so. Otherwise, sir, I got nothing else. Guards have a doubleheader tomorrow. Cavs have playoff game 2 tomorrow. And, of course, all your minor league baseball starts tomorrow.
And a double Thor bump week. Gotta love that.
Woo! Big week.
Big week.
Sign us out. Get us out of here.
Well, appreciate every single 41 of you in the stream today. Big bounce back there. Bounce back from last week. Can we get
50 next week? Can we get 50?
Gotta try 50. Gotta try 50.
So.
Gotta try 50 next week.
Gotta try.
Should have the Instagram up and running this week.
It's a very old page. We're going to revamp it. Yep. We're going to take it over, revamp it, rebrand it, and start posting some clips. So
check
something we've talked about for a while, but it'll finally start happening.
keep up with the X. We'll tag it on there so everybody knows where to find it. And that's all I got. Same time next Monday. And see everybody next week.
I'll be from a hotel room.